It has been almost 10 years since Fenway Sports Group, often abbreviated to FSG, acquired Liverpool Football Club from fellow Americans George Gillette and Tom Hicks. It has been an extraordinary decade in many respects since their arrival, and whilst Liverpool are undoubtedly a better functioning club, with a far superior playing squad to the one they had in 2010, FSG aren't universally popular among Liverpool fans. Since their arrival, Liverpool have signed the likes of Philippe Coutinho, Luis Suarez and Mohamed Salah, pulling off some of the best pieces of business in world football. As ever though, not every signing turns out to be a masterstroke, and today's video is all about the worst signings made by the club since FSG arrived in October 2010. Taken into account is the finances of the deal, the all-round impact and actual performances on the pitch. Dominic Solanke, for example, wasn't very good for Liverpool, but was sold for a significant profit. Emre Can, conversely, left on a free, leaving Liverpool £10 million in the hole on him, but he did have 4 years of capable service on the pitch. So neither feature in this 7. Here are Liverpool's 7 worst signings since their takeover by FSG. Iago Aspas. A player of Iago Aspas' quality for a fee of around £9 million should, in theory, have no place in a 7 of worst signings, but that's how bad his time at Anfield was. The diminutive forward arrived on Merseyside for a little under £10 million off the back of an impressive debut campaign in La Liga, in which he had scored 12 goals in 34 games for Celta Vigo. He was the only forward signed by Brendan Rodgers in the summer of 2013, and he was totally different in makeup to the forward he replaced, Andy Carroll. Aspas was totally different to Carroll in terms of style, but pretty similar in terms of effectiveness. In fact, he was a fair bit less effective, failing to score in 14 Premier League appearances and scoring only once in 15 appearances in all competitions. Lots of talented players need a season to adapt to life in the Premier League, but Aspas would never get that opportunity. He returned to Spain with Sevilla, with Liverpool taking around a £4 to £5 million hit on the sale. Despite his struggles, Aspas almost picked up a Premier League winners' medal during his time at Anfield, and had he managed to chip in with a few goals, the club might have pipped Man City to the title. Aspas spent just a season with Sevilla before returning to his spiritual home of Celta Vigo, where he has since scored 97 goals in 183 games as one of the most prolific and consistent goal scorers in Spanish football. Sebastian Cortez. Sebastian Cortez's surname should probably actually just be pronounced Coates, since the name comes from his father, who is of Scottish descent. Discrepancies over how to pronounce his surname wasn't the reason why Sebastian Cortez wasn't a very good signing for Liverpool though. That had more to do with the fact that he hardly ever played. Having impressed in Uruguay with Nacional, Liverpool signed Cortez in 2011 for a reported £7 million. The centre-back made 24 appearances in his first 2 seasons at Anfield, before being sent out on loan to Nacional and then Sunderland over the next 2 seasons. Following 4 years contracted to the Reds, Sunderland signed Cortez on a permanent basis in 2015 for around £2.5 million. Liverpool lost close to £5 million on the centre-back, who didn't contribute a great deal on the pitch and only actually played 12 games in the Premier League. Cortez played more games but didn't do an awful lot to impress in his only season at Sunderland, but he has since found form and consistency as Sporting Club de Portugal in the Portuguese Primeira Liga. Cortez has been capped 39 times by Uruguay despite having to jostle with the likes of Diego Godin and Jose Jimenez for a starting berth. Stewart Downing. Don't mistake any of these inclusions as me saying any of these players aren't very good, they are simply a reflection of the players' success at Liverpool in relation to the fee and purposes for which they were signed. Stewart Downing, for example, was signed by Liverpool for £20 million at a time when £20 million was quite a lot of money. As a reminder of how much money that was at the time, Downing was the 5th most expensive Premier League signing that summer, ahead of fellow Liverpool signing Jordan Henderson, Chelsea's acquisition of Romelu Lukaku, and Manchester United's recruitment of young Spanish goalkeeper David De Gea. I will say with some certainty that of those mentioned, Downing was the worst piece of business. The Englishman was signed by Liverpool from Aston Villa, where he had only spent 2 seasons since signing for them from Middlesbrough for £11 million. Downing was renowned for his impressive deliveries into the box and from set pieces, in addition to being able to hit double figures or near enough in terms of goals. He never hit double figures or came remotely close during his time at Anfield, only scoring 3 Premier League goals in 65 games across those 2 seasons, before being deemed surplus to requirements. The Reds took a big hit on Downing, who joined West Ham for around £5 million in 2013, and he ended up being a very good signing for Sam Allardyce, who found a new role for Downing in attacking midfield. Nevertheless, the 35-year-old, who now plays for Blackburn Rovers, has to go down as one of Liverpool's worst signings of the FSG era. Alberto Moreno. As an outsider, I must admit I didn't realise Alberto Moreno spent 5 seasons at Anfield. The Spaniard was extremely inconsistent during his time in the Premier League, occasionally looking like a really capable attack-minded fullback before invariably looking like a Sunday League player when caught out of position or trying to make a recovery tackle. The 2016 Europa League final, in which Moreno seemingly still thought he was playing for Sevilla, should have been the final nail in the coffin for the fullback. But it wasn't. Jurgen Klopp was never going to win any major silverware with Moreno as his first choice left-back, and for a long time, Klopp opted to play James Milner at left-back rather than giving Moreno the nod. Andy Robertson's emergence was perfectly timed for the Reds then, and they released Moreno as his contract came to an end last season. In total, Moreno made 141 appearances for Liverpool, meaning he played more games for the club than Javier Mascherano, Peter Crouch, or Luis Suarez. I can't quite get my head around that being true, but I assure you it is. Moreno was signed for over £16 million, he wasn't very good, and he left for nothing. I'd want sacking if I left him out of this 7, and he features in 4th. Lazar Markovic. Into the top 3, and these 3 were all rather calamitous signings by Liverpool. In at 3rd is Lazar Markovic, who joined Liverpool for £20 million as a 20-year-old. That worked out at more than £1 million per Premier League appearance for the Serbian, and that isn't even accounting for his not insignificant wage demands. Markovic looked like a bright, forward-thinking signing by Brendan Rodgers, as he had impressed during a single season with Benfica. Quick and direct, Markovic made 19 Premier League appearances in his first season at Anfield and 34 appearances in all competitions. 4 loan moves followed, joining Fenerbahce, Sporting Club de Portugal, Hull City and Anderlecht, and Markovic did alright in spells on loan, and he might still be playing in the Premier League had Hull City stayed up that season, since the Tigers may well have taken him on a permanent deal if they had the financial means to do so. In the end, Markovic's contract was terminated in January 2019, and the wide man joined Fulham on a free transfer. Having made just 1 appearance during his half-season in a relegated Fulham team, Markovic's time in the Premier League was done. Last summer, he returned to Partizan, and he has been excellent ever since. However, having been signed for £20 million, sold for nothing, and having offered very little in between, Markovic would make any all-time worst Liverpool signings 11. Mario Balotelli. I came oh so close to putting Mario Balotelli top of this 7, but I will soon explain why I didn't. The Italian international joined Liverpool for £16 million in 2014, following a decent season at AC Milan. It was a much anticipated return to the Premier League, with Balotelli seemingly having unfinished business following his temperamental stint at Manchester City. The former Inter Milan man showed few signs of having matured at Anfield though, and he was in fact much less effective than he had been for the citizens. Balotelli looked slow, laborious, and a million miles away from the man that he had replaced, Luis Suarez. While Suarez had so often grabbed a game at the scruff of the neck and made it his own, Balotelli was constantly complaining about the service he received, which, in fairness, didn't really suit his game. In his only season at Anfield, Balotelli scored 1 goal in 16 Premier League games, and 4 goals in 28 games in all competitions. He spent the following season on loan at AC Milan before joining Ligue 1 side Nice on a free transfer. Not only did Balotelli cost Liverpool £16 million up front, plus being one of their highest earners, I actually think they would have been even better off in that season if the club didn't have him on the pitch, even if it meant playing Fabio Borini or Ricky Lambert on a regular basis. A truly dreadful signing. Andy Carroll. Liverpool paid £35 million for Andy Carroll. That's all. No, in all seriousness, Liverpool paid £35 million for Andy Carroll and sold him for £15 million plus a £2 million loan fee, so they lost £18 million on him in total, which is roughly equivalent to the economics involved in the Mario Balotelli deal, where the Reds lost a little over £16 million. Andy Carroll scored 6 goals in 44 Premier League games for Liverpool and 11 goals in 58 games at all competitions, which is a pretty dreadful record, but nonetheless better than Mario Balotelli's at the club. It is for that reason that I nearly put Balotelli top, but here's why I didn't. Balotelli is among the world's most mercurial talents, sometimes brilliant, sometimes useless. As much as he didn't fit Liverpool's system, had he bagged a hat-trick on his debut and felt the love of the Anfield crowd, who knows what he could have done. He certainly had the talent to become a 20 or even 30 goal a season striker in the Premier League and justify that £16 million price tag. I don't believe that Andy Carroll could ever justify the £35 million that Liverpool paid for him, which remains one of the most ludicrous pieces of business ever seen in the world of football. I can think of few transfers that have made almost everyone with any knowledge of football collectively do a double take and check whether they read the numbers correctly. 9 years on, yes you did. It really was £35 million, and that makes Andy Carroll the worst Liverpool signing of the last 10 years, and perhaps of all time. That's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed it, and as always, make sure that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.